evening, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are going to a case in point, and that is where we talk to some of our law enforcement professionals and talk about one of the cases that really stood out in their careers. Today, we're going to talk to one of our own in-house experts, Eric Seidel, formerly of every prosecutorial office here in New York. Eric, how you doing?
Good, Paul.
So I know you did a lot of, first of all, you did a lot of cases in general, but you did a ton of wise guy cases going back to what was, for lack of a better term, their golden years when they were really powerful here in New York. And you made cases against all the five families, etc. But I know that there's one from the 1980s that really stood out for you and that we want to peel apart today. So let me ask you, what was it about this case that really, well, let's start with the beginning. Where were you at the time when the case came to you?
I was in the Brooklyn DA's office. I was in the Homicide Bureau.
And at the time, Brooklyn was really like the center of the universe, wise guy-wise, right? All the mafia guys were in Brooklyn. Even by then, Lower Manhattan didn't have the sort of concentration of gangsters that it had in previous eras, just like Uptown in East Harlem used to have a big, heavy concentration of Italian gangsters. By this time, a lot of them are in Brooklyn. That's where you're working. So you're in homicide. How does this thing come to you?
Well, I inherited the case, and the ADA that had it before me went to another bureau and left me this thing. And I think I probably asked for it because it was an interesting case. No body. It was a murder with no body.
Which is really unusual, right?
Well, yes, very unusual.
And very hard to prosecute.
Extremely hard. So the victim, a girl, a young girl, 19 about, had disappeared in 1980. And pretty soon thereafter her disappearance, the police got information that she was killed.
So how did they get that information? Was there an informant?
The brother, yes, there was information just generally. I forget specifically what it was, but the what I do remember was that the brother of the bad guy, the perp, told the detectives, told the police that his brother had killed this girl.
Now, characterize the alleged perp for me.
Well, the perp was he was an associate of John Gotti. From Ozone Park, and there was a crew of them, and this particular guy, Andrew Currow, had committed armored car robberies.
Right.
And these armored car robberies, just to digress a little bit, formed the predicate crimes for the first federal indictment of John Gotti in the Eastern District. For which he was prosecuted along with a bunch of other people, other associates of his, and he was acquitted during that case.
Was that one of the cases where they got to the jury?
Yes.
It was. Were you on that case?
I actually, and again, it's part of the story, I ended up testifying in that case as a witness as a rebuttal witness for the government. As a result of my prosecution of this guy, Andrew Currow, for the murder of this girl, April Ernst, was the victim.
Right. So I got pushed us ahead of ourselves. So let's go back to the original case. We'll get to Gotti later. So this case you inherit this case in the Brooklyn DA homicide squad, and your information coming from apparently his brother is that he did the murder.
Yes. We had information. And again, but no body. So it's, you don't have a body. It's, you're not going to prosecute a case. But 4 years went by the time I got it. And it was either do or die. There was a detective on the case, Robert Kohler, very good guy, who was pushing the case. And, we weren't going to get any more information that we had as time went on.
Right.
And we didn't have any eyewitnesses to the actual murder, but we had people that the perp, Andrew Currow, admitted his commission of the murder to.
Right.
And we weren't getting anything more than that. So it was either one of these do or die situations. And obviously the case wasn't that strong.
Right.
in terms of the proof, because we didn't have, as I say, an eyewitness to the actual murder. We didn't have a body. Uh, so we had to make a decision. And, in this particular case, we decided that, look, the issue was so important. What's more important than life and death? So either we're
Mm.
going to do it or we're not going to do it.
And if you lose, you lose. You took the shot. You
exactly,
think he's guilty. You have good indicia. Now, to
that's
clarify,
exactly.
the law in New York is construed that just on somebody's say so, you're not going to get a conviction. You need some other circumstances, correct?
You need corroboration
Right.
to an admission. That's statutory.
Right.
So we had evidence that we thought would be sufficient to provide this corroboration. For instance, the victim was never heard from again. Her social security account or any other bank account was just there's no movement. She was living with relatives who she was close to. Never heard from them.
Mm-hmm.
They never heard from her. And these circumstantial indicia of her disappearance,
Mm-hmm.
combined with the admissions, um, provided the evidence that we had at trial.
So really, what you had to corroborate is not even getting to whether Curro had done it, but you had to corroborate the idea that in fact she'd been murdered.
Correct. That's absolutely right. And that was a hurdle that we had to overcome.
Right, because you don't have a body, and so you got
Right.
to say to yourself, "Well, how do we know that she didn't meet a new guy and run off to Brazil or something?"
That was part of the summation. Like the defense said, we don't know that she's dead, and
Right,
I said, look, obviously, she could have gone to Tahiti or something,
right,
but look at all the evidence that we do have.
right. And you do, of course, have the admission from the accused to his brother. Did the brother testify?
Yes, the brother did testify, and
Interesting.
the admissions were pretty gruesome. Uh,
Yeah.
you
So why
know,
don't you
I
go into that a little bit? What did he tell his brother?
Well, he told his brother he killed the girl, and he cut up the body, put it in pieces, put it in a bag, and dumped it.
Right.
Uh, and there was some graphic description of how he did it. The intestines were like spaghettis. All this gruesome stuff.
Right.
Then we had a witness before the trial who told us that Caro had admitted to him that he killed the girl and that he drank a cup of her blood. So
Mm,
obviously
right.
that's very colorful stuff. You want to be able to put that in front of the jury. So uh, we ran after this witness. And I remember this. The witness told us he wasn't coming in.
Well,
So
what a shock! I can't believe your brother
exactly.
testified.
Right. Well, the brother had his own. He had his own problem. He had a grudge, arguments. Didn't get along with his brother, and he actually was in some kind of protective custody. I don't think he was in the witness protection program, but he had been relocated by
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
FBI.
We used to do this. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and what was interesting, again, it's small world kind of thing. The FBI agent who was his handler was a guy by the name of Robert Levinson. Now, you might remember Robert
Yeah,
Levinson
why? I
was,
remember that name.
yes, he was, after he retired from the FBI, he went to work for the CIA apparently and was taken by the Iranians.
Oh, right. Yes, yes, of course. But he got out
Yes.
alive, right?
No, no,
Oh, he's the
he
one they
was,
killed and they never heard
he's the
anything else
one
again.
never heard
Right,
anything
right,
back,
right. He's not the one that
Yeah,
they got.
no.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And his
So
brother, I think, is alive and still makes noise like could he be alive? They thought he was on an island off of Iran for a while.
correct.
Remember that?
He went over to the island of Kish off of
Right.
Saudi Arabia, and he was taken by the Iranians, and
Right.
obviously never heard from since.
Yeah, now I remember. Yeah,
Obviously.
yeah, yeah.
So he brought the brother in,
Mm.
uh, and the brother did testify. But what happened with the witness, the young kid actually, who had that information about drinking the cup of blood, which of course we wanted to put on at the trial, uh, he wouldn't come in. So we got a material witness order, which is basically an order from the court which permits us to arrest the person
Hmm.
when we have reason to believe that he's not going to show up, and bring him to court. Uh, we couldn't find him. We
Hmm.
went from his house. He was told. He told us that he just left. He went to his girlfriend's house. We ran to his girlfriend's house. Couldn't find him. We never found him.
Right.
And it's understandable as to why. But what we did have, we got lucky. We got a guy who was a prison mate of Coro's, who came in and said and told us that Coro told him while they were in jail together that he admitted that he killed a girl, and I think he told this guy that he shot her and also bagged the body. In other words, but he killed her in a way that was different from the way that the brother described him saying. And we had to deal with that issue as well.
Sure. Sure.
But we put him on, and he testified. And at the end of the day, the jury came back and convicted Carl of the murder of April Ernst.
So did you get the drinking the blood thing in front of the jury at all?
No, I did not.
You
I
didn't.
did not, because
Because
I
it comes
couldn't
up in
find
the
the guy.
story. If you look
Yeah, yeah,
around, that comes up. Well,
yeah.
obviously at the time, everybody was worried about, the mafia was very powerful. Those wise guys everywhere. The Gambinos at the time were probably the most powerful. Them and the Genovese, especially in Brooklyn. You had I think, what was the name? The Ravenite was the club, right?
No,
Out there by
in Manhattan, the
well,
Ravenite.
and then in Queens they had the Bergen Hunt and Fish, right?
Yes, that was
That's the one,
Gotti's club
and that was
in
Gotti's club.
yes, and again it was Ozone Park, and these kids, Coro, along with
It's
others,
that
some of the,
area. That's what I was
that
getting to.
area,
Right.
sure. And these were rough kids. They
Yeah.
were they were killers.
Clearly, and this
Yeah.
guy sounds like a real psychopath. Aside from the drinking the blood thing, which we understand is only an allegation, didn't end up in court, but nonetheless, it came out in the evidence. But also his delight, apparently, and it comes through in even looking at the appeal documents. It comes through in his telling. He's bragging about it, and he really seems to want to create this image of himself as like the angel of death. There was the blood was all over the place. The intestines were like spaghetti. He's just completely immune to it, and I guess he was.
Yeah, and look, there's a sequel to this, which we talked about at the beginning of this podcast. Well, he before he was sentenced, he had written a letter. I forget exactly what was in it, to the federal prosecutor on the Gotti case, Diane Jackalone.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and we got a hold of that
I knew
letter.
her brother was FBI, right?
I don't know that if her
Yeah,
brother was an
I
FBI
think his
agent.
older. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So she, again, this case was ongoing. The case against Gotti, where John Gleason was the young second seat
Oh
in
wow.
that case.
Yeah.
And we thought that maybe, just maybe, that Caro would want to cooperate.
Right. Right.
So I went to visit him in jail
Hmm.
again before he was sentenced, and talked to him, and he did not want to cooperate. But he ended up testifying in the Gotti case for Gotti.
Ah.
And what his testimony was, that yes, he committed those armored car robberies, but the money never went up to Gotti.
Hmm.
It stayed with him.
Right.
So that evidence was used to contest the RICO, because part of the RICO was that
There's an
these kids,
organization.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, these kids had committed the crimes for Gotti.
Right.
Uh, okay, and then he also testified that when I visited him in jail, I threatened.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you
With
didn't,
what? He's already convicted of a murder.
he's convicted of murder. That I don't know. I forget exactly what the specifics were, but I threatened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the government called me to rebut that, and
I see.
I went and testified in that first Gotti case where Gotti and all his defendants were acquitted. I hope I was not the cause of that, and I'm sure I was not.
Well, no, they reached. I mean, what's his
They
name? The
they
chin,
reached
not the other guy.
no
The bull,
Pizak.
right?
No, yeah,
The bull
yes. I mean, the
reached the
bull was
witness,
involved. Yes, they not the witness, the juror.
the juror. Right. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they. My recollection is somebody knew somebody in the DA's office who got them the jury list.
Well, it wouldn't have been the DA's. It wouldn't have been the DA's office. It would have been. It was a federal case, so in the
I'm
Eastern
sorry,
District of New
in
York.
the Eastern District,
Yeah,
they knew somebody, the secretary or something, got them the witness list.
I forget what the details were, the specifics, but they had a guy on the jury that they had paid, and
Yeah.
obviously you need 12 to come to a verdict, but he was there wasn't going to be a
Was he the lone
conviction.
holdout?
No, he wasn't a holdout. I mean, it was an acquittal, straight out acquittal.
Wow.
So they had 12 for acquittal, and
Why do
look,
you think that was? Was the case overcharged?
no, it wasn't overcharged. I mean, there were a number of reasons. I mean, the atmosphere in the courtroom that I saw, and when I testified, it was like you go into your high school cafeteria, and people are throwing food, and a bunch of hoodie kids in the corner, and it was like that. The judge didn't control the courtroom.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
there were problems with the cooperating witnesses.
Right.
And also, they didn't have, tapes like they had in the second Gotti case, where
Right.
he was admitting his
Right.
guilt.
Right.
Uh,
The second federal
the
case.
second federal case, where he was convicted.
Right. Because they
Uh,
had the state case that he also beat where they had tapes, but they were unintelligible.
yeah, exactly. They were not correct. They were not particularly audible.
Right.
Uh, and I suppose there were a number of factors, but those were the factors. Usually it's, a lack of proof. Now, look, when you do these big mob cases, you have two elements that really are going to give you a conviction. You're going to have cooperators,
Yeah.
and you're going to
You're gonna
have
have tapes. You're gonna have,
corroboration,
yeah.
which are basically tapes.
Generally wiretaps. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So one of those elements was missing in the first Gotti trial.
So I got to ask you, when you went to see Curro, now here's a guy who's coming off as a vampire. You go up to see him in federal prison. You just convicted him. Now, well, let me ask you something, especially back then. You got him on a murder,
Right.
but it's a federal case. So what did you
No, no,
actually?
it's in other words, the Gotti case was a federal case. My
Oh,
case
the
was a
Curro case
state
was a
case.
standard murder
Yeah,
case in
yeah.
Brooklyn. In
So you
Brooklyn,
have,
homicide. Right,
yeah,
right.
you,
Okay.
you've got some leeway there.
Yeah, right.
Before sentencing. I mean, first of all, you've got either 15 to life or 25 to life.
Right.
In a pinch, perhaps we could have moved to dismiss the case and made him plead guilty to a manslaughter in the first degree, or they could have put him in the federal witness protection
They put him
program.
in Woodstock, yeah.
And 15 to life, he would have done 15 or a little less in the witness protection program, and then he would have gotten out. In other words, there were certain benefits he could have received had he decided to testify and tell the truth in the federal case. He decided he didn't want to do it.
What was his demeanor? What was it like dealing with this guy?
It wasn't anything special. I mean, it wasn't, particularly friendly. But look, he's in jail. I come in with a detective. I'm not going there by myself.
Right.
Wasn't threatening, but it wasn't my friend. It was, as far as I remember, cold discussion. This is
He told you right then, no?
I believe he did. Yeah. I believe so. Yeah.
So he stays in on state time.
He stays in on
murder
state
conviction
time.
from
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
he
He
got
goes
25.
away.
Yeah, he got 25 to life.
Right.
And I learned a number of years ago, he got out.
I was about to ask you that. So whatever happened, he got out, huh?
Yeah, he got out. Yeah.
So someplace out there, assuming he's still alive, is Mr.
He's out
Curro.
there. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Wow. Wow. Did you
Yeah.
ever deal with the victim's family at all
Yes,
on
I
this?
did. I did.
Because they must have been very appreciative of the fact that you guys were willing to take a flyer on this, no?
They were. Uh, she was the family owned. I don't know if you know this. The Great Bear Auto.
Auto parts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they had some money.
They had some money, and the mother was, and the sister were very, very nice and very appreciative. Look,
Right.
they thought this was a lost cause.
Sure.
Nothing was going to happen. April, the body never was found. To this day, has not been found.
Yeah.
And
And she got involved. She got involved with these guys. It was probably glamorous, etc. Because she was his boy, Curro's girlfriend. They were
she had
boyfriend
been
girlfriend.
going out with him, and we understood that a motive for the murder was he was afraid she was going to inform on him.
Right.
She knew too much.
She knew too much. The classic.
Yeah,
This case
yeah,
has actually a lot of the cliches. She knew too much. They
yeah.
took her for a ride. That's
Yes, they
literally
did.
right.
They
They got her in
literally
the
took her
car
for a ride.
and took
Yeah,
her for a ride. And what's amazing is, I was reading through it. They got her out of a club in
yeah,
Brooklyn called Scandals.
correct.
I've been to Scandals
Okay.
years and years ago. My uncles used to go and stuff, and they dragged me in one time. I was completely underage, but I remember it at the height of Brooklyn disco, 80s,
Yeah,
90s kind of era. I remember it like it was yesterday. And, I saw that in reading through the case. I was like, oh my God, Jesus, they got her out of Scandals. But my understanding is she's in Scandals. He thinks she knows too much. She also was mad apparently because he came in with another girl and there was a
yeah.
dispute or something.
Right, right. We that's what we understood, and I believe we put that in, as part of the evidence,
Yeah.
uh, as to a motive. And look, the jury was a brave jury. I mean, they got the sense that this kid was, he's a wise guy, or he
He
was
already had
connected.
he already had a robbery conviction, correct?
He was in, yeah, sure, he was in jail.
Yeah.
He had been convicted of those armored car robberies.
Right. Right. So he's in jail on the armored car robberies. He's a Gambino associate hoping to be made. He testifies for John Gotti and tells you essentially get lost.
Correct.
Kills this girl, cuts her up into pieces, and drinks a cup of her blood, allegedly. And you got him in a conviction without a body. Now, I got to ask you,
Yeah.
you get this guy, by all metrics, a very bad guy. There's all of these atmospherics relative to the Gambinos. Can he flip? What does he know? Who will he testify with, against, with, etc.? What happened on appeal? Because I got to imagine he appealed a case where there's no hard evidence that this person's dead.
He lost his appeals.
There you go.
And the courts pointed to, there was another case, a precedent, where the corroboration
Yeah.
was essentially the same kind of corroboration that I had. Uh, and they said that was sufficient. It's up to the jury to decide what happened. They decided, and legally it was sufficient. So the conviction was affirmed on appeal by up to the New York State Court of Appeals, which is our highest court.
Right.
So he lost, and he did his time.
A major case. I mean, if you think about it, you got a conviction without a body, which is extremely rare, and it survived on appeal. So I would have to imagine down through the years subsequent to this conviction, which was 1986, I want to say, or so.
We tried the case in '85.
Okay. So someplace subsequent to that, I see the date on it. That might have been the appeal I saw was 86. Since then, decades since then, I have to imagine the case has been invoked for other cases as case law regarding circumstantial evidence of a murder where all you have to go on is the testimony of essentially somebody who gave it up, right? Somebody he bragged to.
Yeah, it was a third party admission. I mean, and again, another thing, we didn't even have an eyewitness to it.
Yeah.
First of all, there are cases, murder cases, murder convictions where no body has been recovered.
Right.
They're very, very rare.
Right.
Uh, but again, this one was even tougher because, again, no eyewitness to the murder,
Right.
just two third-party admissions, somewhat at odds in terms of how the murder was committed.
Did Curro testify?
No, he did not.
Probably wise.
Yeah,
Probably
oh
wise.
no, yeah, there would have been a lot of cross-examination
Yeah.
material
Yeah.
had he
Yeah. He would have opened
testified.
himself up to be
You know,
destroyed.
it would have.
Yeah.
He would have whatever chance he had, he would have blown it had he testified.
What
You
year
know,
did he get out?
Paul. I think it was probably about, I don't know, 3, 4 years ago, something
Really?
like that.
So call it
Yeah,
the 20. So he did 20.
something like that. He
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 did almost
did
40 years.
he did. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
something. Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
heavy hit on a state time. Wow. Well, that's a great case, man. And, kudos to you for bringing it in with so little evidence because it really does sound like he was guilty. Certainly the jury agreed with that. The judge agreed clearly because the verdict survived, as did the appeals courts. So I see why you thought of it as the real case in point here. Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, we were aggressive back then, and
Yeah. Missing now.
to a certain extent,
Yeah.
uh, there were a lot of murders in those days, and
Yeah.
we were somewhat passionate about our work. We could have said, "Hey, there's probably going to get an acquittal here. Why risk it?" But we
Sure.
were,
She hung around with these guys, she should have
uh,
known better. That can be, but she's a
well, well,
19-year-old girl. I mean, of
yeah,
course.
and nobody wants to try a case where the chances of acquittal are high,
Yeah.
but we took the shot,
Yeah.
and obviously, I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
And the family was quite grateful.
And that's really the important thing.
Yeah, that was a nice interaction we had.
Yeah. Well, it reminds me just in closing here of a quote I once heard from a DOJ supervisor at Southern. And he said, show me a prosecutor with a 95, 96% prosecution rate, success rate, and I'll show you a prosecutor that doesn't take risks.
Yeah,
And
you cherry pick your cases.
I was about to say, yeah, but you know who
You
said
know,
that?
no.
James Comey. And at the time that he said it, the conviction rate at the Southern District was 95, 96%.
Yeah.
So a little clue to his character right there. Anyway, well, Eric, listen, great story, great case. You had the stones to bring it and take the risk because you knew you had a real bad guy. Like I said, kudos to you. Thanks for being with us today on the Ops Desk podcast. Guys, I am Paul Morrow. And as ever, all of you, please be safe. And thank you to Eric Seidel, prosecutor extraordinaire.